So then I told him, that's not a possum. That's my wife.
Hi. Oh. Didn't see you there. Welcome to Star Wars Hour. As always, I'm Rich.
I'm D-Rock. It's good to see everybody this evening.
And welcome to part 2 of our The Last Jedi review. But Rich and D-Rock, it's been like 3 weeks. Sorry, Christmas, New Year's, SAC anime, because we live in NorCal. All this fun stuff was, just getting conveniently in our way. But now, finally, it's time for part 2 of our review. And hey, if you're watching this in the future because for some reason you needed a review of this movie way after its release, then you're in luck because you get to watch part 2 right after you watch part 1. So who cares? All right. Yeah. So D-Rock, why don't you fill us in what happened previously on Star Wars Hour?
Irrelevant. Super chat.
Oh, yeah.
He told me to remind him. Super chat. So the way we go, just in case you haven't seen this before, we will do lots and lots and lots and lots of talking most of the time. Then the last 15 minutes we reserve for your questions, your pointed Star Wars questions on any items. Now, if your question is terrible and I don't want to answer it, but then you really want to make me answer it, fuck you, and follow up, use super chat, and I will have to answer it, which I don't appreciate, but I also appreciate at the same time.
Awesome.
So that's where we're at. That is what I was told to do.
So Super Chat is there for you guys to use. Otherwise, we'll be answering all normal questions within the last 10 to 15 minutes. Okay.
Correct.
So, D-Rock, first thing I want to say, though, I do want to address something in the comments right away. User Danny Creeper, thank you for being a fan for watching Star Wars Hour. However, he did say he never plans on watching a Star Wars movie. First of all, you're making a huge life mistake if you never watch a Star Wars movie. Second, you're making a huge life mistake if you never watch all of the Star Wars movies in one sitting and dedicate an entire day to it. What do you think, D-Rock?
I think that is a good point. And Danny, if you don't want to watch the Star Wars because that's just not your thing,
the Star Wars,
I accept you. I will not be saying fuck you because I accept you as a person. Also, then watch this, and then you don't actually have to watch the Star Wars. It's just as good.
All right. Obviously, spoilers just like last time.
Yes.
All right, D-Rock. So where are we at in our review?
That will be my last F-bomb of the thing, because you say 2, now we have an R rating.
I'm not promising that, but we'll see.
Yeah. So this is a quick recap of what we talked about last time. We're not going to talk about... oh, Danny, do it. Sorry. Okay, back to the thing. Back to where we were at before. We're not going to recap exactly what we thought and felt about everything, but I'm going to just go through the major plot points that occurred in Star Wars The Last Jedi and then where we left off.
Right.
So we had the major events of General Leia Organa, her basic epic come to as far as the Force user goes in the way of the canon. If you've read any of the other canon stuff, though, you know that that's kind of been long coming. There's a big debate over that, movies versus alternative canon. Anyways, after that, we had the Mega-class Star Destroyer catching the Resistance, cut to Ren's bombing run on the Radis, General Organa ending up being almost a casualty of that. Then the quick and swift death of Admiral Akbar, which was a disappointment to all. Then we cut, in far as the movie goes, to Luke and Rey's meeting. Luke's initial refusal, then his kind of reluctancy to then help after seeing Rey's...
That was like the big part of our part 1 reviews. We talked in depth about Rey and Luke and how we felt about like their whole thing over there on the island.
Yes, exactly. And then we moved into Luke's recovery and his worry about Rey's lack of fear of the dark side. We talked a little bit about why Luke shut himself off from the Force. Then we came into the Yoda ghost. We talked a lot about that. I actually watched, a side note, I definitely I just saw the Rian Johnson discussion on why Yoda looked like he did and why he looked a little squashed. The reason being is they actually used a model of the original head. Yeah. That's over like 40 years old at this point.
Yeah.
That was literally just in a box of shit sent over by the studio.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I want to say about the puppet is I think in most of the shots the puppet looked great. I thought it looked just like Empire. It's only for me that opening shot, the very first shot we see of Yoda's face, and he did look a little squashed. Yeah. And I think if I'm an educated guess here, I think it's because when you have that dark green character in front of a dark background, they had to use some artificial lighting. Well, there was artificial lightning in that scene too. They had to use artificial lighting thing, and I think for some reason the combination of puppet and CG just looked a little off.
Yeah.
But to me, it was just in that very first shot of him.
Well, I had also heard, and you can talk more about this than I do because I know nothing about lenses, but Ryan, for the entire film, used a larger lens. He used a wider lens than what's standard for both the Star Wars film and just kind of movie making as a whole.
Yeah.
Which they did comment on that for that opening scene. Okay. Then we came to the Jedi texts, their kind of importance / lack of importance to what the Jedi Order
Yeah, they
really
need to make up
means.
their mind because the movie kind of went both ways on that. It's like, I went here to find these ancient Jedi texts and then I never read them. And they're not important, but then Rey stole them anyway. So I guess they are going to become important again. I don't know. Who knows? I guess we'll find out in the next one or not.
Yes. And then that's where it left off with us and Rey, Snoke, and Ren's meeting. The big scene, the big red, as I call it, the big red scene. What the Imperial, I guess they're not called Imperial Guards anymore.
Those were, this sounds like petroleum guards, although I know that's wrong, but it's something with a P.
Yeah, so the Red Guards, we'll call it that, Game of Thronesy. And kind of what takes place here. So now let's talk about the big, because there's a little bit of back and forth between Ren and Kylo and all that.
We're finally caught up to basically where we are for the part 2.
Yes, so this is part 2. This is where we're going to finish it. Yeah, thank you. So this is where we can finally slow down and take our time about it. Now, I don't know if you want to talk about anything about Rey and Kylo, Rey and Kylo's elevator scene as they're going up there. They didn't really say a lot, but I thought they did a good job of conveying the emotion.
I hear a lot of different opinions about this scene. I've seen the movie a few times, and every time I see it, I think it's just like she is realizing, especially after her kind of training with Luke kind of left a bad taste in her mouth. She recognizes that Kylo not only is the son of Han and Leia, but that she feels the good side within him. She feels the conflict, just like Luke did with Vader in the original trilogy. And she is really just trying to be, at this point, she went from, people underestimate the amount of character development in this movie, by the way.
Yeah.
She goes from hating this guy to really starting to care for him and really trying to bring that light side out of them.
Yes.
Now, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, I think that they have feelings for each other, but I feel like that's a gross misinterpretation of the motive behind this scene. I think it's really just like a platonic thing. Hey, if they end up getting together in the last movie, then consider me wrong. But then that could also just be JJ misinterpreting Rian Johnson. So it's anybody's guess at this point. I personally feel like it's like a brother-sister kind of a thing.
Yes.
And she's really just trying to bring him to the light side. The whole encounter with well, actually, look, you want to say something about the elevator before we go to
I do.
Snoke? Okay.
The tension in there was entirely two people's extreme determination. Kylo's to appease Snoke, and Rey's determination to kill him. And all we felt, that tension, what could have been like a brotherly kind of brother-sister connection, or like a lover connection, if you want to take that the weird way, is entirely just two people's determination on the same goal. Both of them wanted to get to the top of that, and that's what was conveyed in the elevator, was just how serious this moment's about to be.
Okay.
Yes. So then, and I'll let you take off after this, we get to their initial meeting and Snoke's discussion.
Their initial first, last, and only meeting with Snoke.
Well, so far, they might change it. You don't know.
Okay. So we get this, and the funny thing is, I feel like, you know, a lot of people, we'll probably go back to this at the end of our review too, but a lot of people complain that The Force Awakens was a lot like A New Hope. And of course it had a lot of similarities to A New Hope, but not enough to bother me. I felt like, as George Lucas said, Star Wars is like poetry. It has repeating parts, and I think that, when you do this kind of thing, it's like, if an evil empire is kind of coming back, then a lot of the same things are going to happen. And, hey, the Death Star almost worked last time. Maybe they'll try it again.
Right.
Anyways, without any of that, I thought that even though The Last Jedi did take a little bit from Empire, it didn't, and for me, it never felt like it was copying Empire Strikes Back at all. The beats felt very different, and the tones were very different. Even some people are still like, it's still just too much like Empire. But if anything, I would say that this Snoke scene was very Return of the Jedi, and it was kind of like, it was almost like, if we were going to go down the route of saying that this is taking anything from the original trilogy,
yes,
I would say that The Last Jedi borrowed a lot from Empire and Return of the Jedi, and kind of combine them into one movie. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, instead, because like at the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke goes and fights Vader and fails, and then they have to do it again in Return of the Jedi. This time it's like Rey goes over there, she fights Kylo, and then he kills Snoke. So then it's like, oh well, then that kind of makes it so Episode 9 is going to be something completely different. And again, I know we'll get back to that at the end, but I'm really looking forward to Episode 9 because it's going to be something. It's definitely going to be like we're in way new territory now, because like, is Kylo going to be? Is he really the new Supreme Leader? What's going to happen? Anyways, I did like the build up in this scene. I did like the conversations. It was very Palpatine reminiscent, and I enjoyed that because I mean, it was the best thing besides just resurrecting Palpatine, which critics would have hated, but I would have loved, because just any excuse for Ian McKellen to come back and be like, would have just been, I would have died. But but it was great. And then of course, Kylo, people, this is another thing of debate, like how he tricked Snoke. I think it's just like he was moving the one lightsaber as he was moving his own lightsaber, and he kind of focused in on that while doing that, and he tricked him. And I do think Snoke is really dead. I don't think he's coming back.
Well, I think in Ryan's
version, that's right. In Ryan's
Snoke is really dead, and all Snoke was a stepping stone to let the major player come in and watch his character develop, which is Kylo. Yeah, I mean that was his plan and his goal for that movie, pretty much, no question. He's brought that up multiple times. That was his idea on it.
Yeah, if I would say, I think that if there is a major problem with the current Star Wars sequel trilogy, it's that I think there might be too many cooks in the kitchen, because I feel like it should have been either JJ the whole way to keep it consistent, or I wish that they would have kind of had the foresight to get Rian Johnson on board earlier to just do his own thing. And I think that maybe that's why they're actually giving him his own trilogy to work on.
Well, isn't this, now think about this, isn't Kylo killing Snoke really a callback to Vader and just who he was as a person,
and what he wanted to do?
Well, and the reason he was so powerful, he kept himself in check. He was a very unstable dark side power user, extremely unstable. And the reason, as they described in several of the comics, that he kept his suit on and refused to upgrade it is because the pain helped him focus. Now, what we're seeing in Kylo is what happens when you have that power, but nothing to control it. Yeah. And so that's going to be that unstable, that's that wild killing Snoke and then fighting Rey, and then you're going to have this huge back and forth with him, because turns out in Ryan's movie, he is way more powerful than anybody else who's been around. And that was why Luke said, I've seen this power before, it didn't scare me enough then.
But it does now.
And so you're seeing that they're truly saying that these are the two most powerful Force users we've ever seen.
Yeah, and that excites me.
Yes.
But again, we're talking about different directors' visions here.
True.
So I truly believe that in Rian Johnson's movie, Snoke is dead. Yes. Now J.J. Abrams is taking back over. He's writing his own script from scratch and not really communicating with Rian Johnson on anything. No. So JJ could be like, nope, that was a dream for all you know. I mean, I don't think he's going to do that, but
Force Ghost.
Force Ghost. Yeah, anything could happen. Really, it's going to feel more like The Force Awakens than The Last Jedi for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm looking forward to JJ challenging himself, because I always say, like, he started Lost, and then after the first season kind of took off, and then he started Star Trek and then took off before the last movie, and then he started Alias and then took off. JJ is like infamous now for starting things and never finishing them. Now he actually has to finish something, so I'm looking forward to him challenging himself. And here's what I think. I think that The Last Jedi, The Last Jedi, it didn't please a lot of fans. It was like, I don't think it was quite 50-50, but there was definitely a lot of upset fans. I think with Episode 9, it's either everyone is going to love it or everyone is going to hate it.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a middle
There's not going to
ground.
be a split. Well, what happened was we had a split, I would argue, on The Force Awakens, that had maybe like 70% of the people really enjoying the movie, having no complaints that it was redoing Empire Strikes Back. And then 30% were kind of, or 20% were like, they did kind of steal a lot from it, but it did kill the movie for me. I fall into that category. And then 10% were like, this movie was ruined. It's a reshoot of Empire Strikes Back. And I think The Last Jedi, what we saw an 80% of people going, yeah, I thought that was a pretty good movie, and a violent 20% saying, this movie's so far outside of canon. This is something we've never seen before. This is terrible. And when we get to episode 9,
There's an X-wing above my head.
Yes. When we get to episode 9, grab it. When we get to episode 9, it'll have, I think it'll either be a perfect 50-50. You will have like half of them violently opposing it and half of them saying, yeah, it was a fine movie. Or you're going to have 100% everybody loved it and 100% everybody are like, why'd you bring Jar Jar back? Like, it's going to be shit
only
like that.
if he's Darth Jar Jar and they set the record straight. But I mean,
a boy can dream.
Honestly, it's hard to displease me. I'm such a fanboy. I rewatch the Ewok movies once in a while. You know, the Caravan of Courage and all that.
Yes.
So I'm gonna love it.
They're adorable.
We keep getting way. You know, it's easy for us to do this, and it's because it's like I keep bringing up these points. I'm like, oh, what does that mean for me in the future? All right, let's get back. Throne room. Okay, Snoke just died. Go.
Snoke died. That we all talked about that. That was easy. That's an easy one. You know, we focused on the one while manipulating the other. And then the
guard fight.
Which, yeah, do you want to talk about the guard fight? I mean, I think that was pretty simple. That was really just
cool action.
That was just a cool action scene. I thought that was a great action scene.
For a brief moment, I had hope. I was like, oh, Kylo's going to go to the good side. But then it's like, but if Snoke's dead and they're both good, who's the enemy then?
Exactly.
Is this movie over?
It has to
balance. Hux is not a good villain. No. I love him as a character, but he's not a bad guy. He's like so incompetent. You know?
Well, I wouldn't say he's incompetent. He just doesn't have the Force.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I think is hilarious with that scene, which I thought was great on Rian Johnson's part, was where the one of the guards takes the lightsaber-esque electric thing and just like fucking across his gauntlet. That was sick to show that like this is about to get real. Like they have armor designed to defeat lightsabers.
Oh, and I thought that was chain whip.
Yes. Okay, that scene overall great choreograph. Amazing. Just I would watch that over and over again.
Nobody talks about that. I think that's probably one of the best choreographed fights in Star Wars
by far.
Yeah.
Like it didn't have the
and a lot of people complain like, oh, there wasn't a lightsaber fight because you know there was like because every single Star Wars movie except for Rogue One, but that's a spinoff, has a lightsaber on lightsaber fight except for this one because the one at the end doesn't really count because they never actually hit, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But it didn't matter though because that fight in the middle was freaking awesome. But apparently, you know,
you're in a lightsaber fight.
Again,
no, you don't.
You're gonna find a lot of the haters just hating because it's not exactly the way they wanted it to be.
And this is a great transition. That brings me to my next point. There was a lightsaber fight, but it was over a lightsaber. Ooh. Do you want to talk about that? The splitting of Anakin's lightsaber?
So what's really interesting is lightsabers are generally made out of this really strong titanium alloy junk that is supposed to be, except if, the only way that in old canon, in Legends, it was basically, unless I'm forgetting something, the only way to really destroy a lightsaber was to cut it in half with another lightsaber, you know? Yeah. But then I think in episode 2, like Anakin, his lightsaber got broken in half a couple times by stupid means, and that kind of went out the window. Although the old Legends canon at that time was still canon, so things didn't quite make sense. Prequels. And so anyways, but either way, it's really cool how Kylo Ren and Rey were just tug-of-warring the Force on that lightsaber, and they used so much force that it broke in half. The crystal, I think, is still intact.
Don't you think? Now here's a crazy one, right? So say you take the old. Think about this. Say you take the old canon and not being able to destroy the physical aspects of a lightsaber without another lightsaber. But what if you have two of the most powerful Force users in existence, not going for the lightsaber, but going for the crystal inside it? That's how you could have that. That's how you can have an explanation of it was the force of the crystal trying to be split between the two. Because both of them, your force focus when you're grabbing a lightsaber, I would argue, isn't for the metal casing. Is you're trying to get the crystal inside. That's what you feel. That's what you see. That's why it's quote unquote assigned to you. You pick the crystal. You go hunt for the crystal. I mean, they talk about that in the
Clone Wars.
Yeah. And so that's an easy explanation. Is that the crystal broke it. Because it blew out of the center. It wasn't to tear.
Yeah, because it's just like, oh, I'm not satisfied with whatever's happening here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because apparently the crystals are alive, you know, in some capacity.
There's some level of Force...
Midichlorians.
Something, yes.
So anyways... the
Force Broom Kid!
Hey, according to Master Liam Neeson Qui-Gon Jinn, midichlorians are alive and they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
And that's still canon, so anyways...
and they're real prevalent if you don't wash your sheets. Wash your sheets, kids.
So anyways... I can't remember. Does the crystal break or is it in one solid piece?
It's
one of
one
those?
Piece. So both both sides of the lightsaber split, and the crystal is there. You can see it. It's one piece.
I remember like they show the close-up and you could see the crystal ball. I wasn't sure if there was still a little piece of it in the other one.
No, it was what I imagined the crystals to look like. Unless they didn't show the second part of the crystal, the whole crystal's there.
The funny thing is I've seen the movie 3 times now, but every time I'm just like, wow.
Well, that's something you don't look at that scene. But let's get past that and look.
I guess because I'm just really hoping that she'll reconfigure it into a double-sided lightsaber, because no one in the movies has had a double-sided lightsaber except for Darth Maul, and it was a Sith saber. When you play the MMO, way more Jedis have double-sided lightsabers than Sith users.
Yes. Well, and so here's something with the splitting of Anakin's lightsaber. What do you think Rian Johnson meant by that? Do you think it's just a simple metaphor of the two forces pulling against each other and Kylo and Rey now fighting against each other? Or do you think that was kind of a deeper dig at what they're doing to Anakin and Darth Vader and his good versus bad as he grew up, as he went from the light to the right? Anakin went from the light to the dark. That is Darth Vader. I'm getting
Anakin, light, dark, light again.
Don't you think that's what that? Don't you think there was a little bit of a deeper meaning into that, showing that this is Anakin's person, that it's Anakin's lightsaber, but it's being pulled from the light to the dark side, just like he was.
It could be. It's just like it's hard to say, because whatever Rian Johnson has in mind is going to get thrown out the window in the next movie. So it hardly matters, But I agree that I think that there's, at least in Rian Johnson's mind, there's some, he's like, well, you see, he's got something in mind there, but who knows if we'll ever really get to it.
Yeah, he was not just sitting around. Almost everything in that movie had an extra meaning for him.
But the nice thing about Yoda Force Ghost, and just like Obi-Wan died in Episode 4, and he stuck around as a ghost in 4 and in 5 and 6. So I think that most Jedis that were able to turn into ghosts, and I guess if you. At least Episode 3 alluded to the idea that Qui-Gon was actually the first one to be able to do that. That's why you're getting all those theories now that there's going to be a huge Nether realm Force Ghost battle. Although to me that wouldn't quite make sense, because I feel like Anakin was really the only one to become a Force Ghost without training to become a Force Ghost, because he was pure Force, having been born from midichlorians. So are Sith able to turn into ghosts? Because it wasn't the whole thing about Plagueis and Palpatine not being able to figure out how to do immortality. I guess we'll find out in Episode 9.
Well, don't you just think that's something Rian Johnson isn't going to touch? That does not seem like
but
it.
JJ has confirmed.
I'm sorry, JJ. I don't think JJ is going to touch that. I don't think he'll touch the massive Force Ghost battle.
I don't know, but he confirmed that Episode 9 is not just wrapping up this trilogy, but all of Star Wars. So it's like, what does that mean?
I don't know. He talks.
He's probably just talking a big game.
Yeah, he's talking a big game. He's not going to do anything. I don't know.
Does that mean Jar Jar's coming back?
Yeah, he's gonna tie up all the loose ends. All it is 2 hours of tying up loose ends, and then all it is it's an hour of a good movie, and then the last hour is just the cut where it's and Jar Jar moved on to become a great teacher of the Gungan School for
just the text at the end of the movie.
And it's just black text. Yeah. Oh jeez. So we go from that fun topic to probably the most useless thing in the movie, except for to introduce DJ.
Didn't we? I feel like we already talked about this last time, or we alluded to talking about it. Can we just skip all of that?
This was DJ selling out Rose and Flynn, and you and me got on a tangent a little bit last time about just why the hell they brought back Phasma.
Yeah, we can summarize this in 30 seconds.
I'm going to keep this to 5 minutes. It's 30 minutes.
We're done.
We're done.
Okay, so DJ, I love Benicio del Toro. Wasted as a character, wasted plot. Phasma come back, cool for a minute, then she dies again. So what was the point? They don't even explain how she survived the last time, and then she comes back for a second. And if they bring her back again, I swear to God, they better have a good explanation, because she just comes and she dies. And
clone Phasma. I think I mentioned that last time. That's the beginning.
If there was a Phasma clone army, then it's those were clones. Then that'd be okay. But we'll see. But as it stands, that whole Finn and Rose subplot, going to Canto Bight, trying to find the Codebreaker, not finding the Codebreaker, finding DJ he betrays, that whole thing ended up being the most pointless thing in the whole Star Wars everything.
Don't you think, and I just thought of this, don't you think it's just Rian Johnson trying a little too hard to like come up with an excuse for Rose to be around. Like they wanted to make you kind of like the Rose character because then later she saves Finn, so you need to kind of have a backstory.
Yeah,
but I think if you would have just shown that for Rose and had her save Finn at the end, you would have loved her anyways. You wouldn't have had to figure out she's got this really sad like, oh, I used to be a slave. And, like
so. Here's the thing about Rose. I don't think her character was necessary in the slightest. There were a few moments where I thought she was okay, but overall I felt like that character just didn't need to be there. In fact, I loved the character of Finn in The Force Awakens.
Yes.
But he should have been in the coma the entire movie because he served no purpose.
Yeah,
he could have woken up right when they were on the carriers to the Crait at the end. He should have woken up right there to do his thing at the end, and then that's it. He didn't need to do anything in the movie but that entire Holdo should have just told Poe her plan, and then that wouldn't have been necessary. The whole subplot was just an excuse, really, for Finn to have screen time, and Finn didn't need to have screen time.
No, he didn't.
What they should have done is brought in Lando, and he could have had some cool screen time.
Yeah,
just give me just
bring back Lando. That's our crusade.
Scenes. And also, we also talked about Holdo ended up being kind of a cool character.
I love,
but there is the argument like, should that have been the way that Akbar went out? Shouldn't he have been the one that sacrificed himself? Yeah, he should have piloted it.
It was his ship.
The ship is named the Raddus after his kinsmen, so it's like it really should have been him.
It's rough.
Hey, but it's like, let's bring in Holdo for all of 20 minutes of her screen time.
Yeah,
she was a cool character, but
great
it really
character.
Should have been Akbar.
Great character. What I would have liked is some weird, mysterious, otherworld backstory on Holdo.
Yeah, and there is in the Leia book. Yeah, but we don't get that.
But they should have put something like that in the movie, and then just axed this whole gambling world scene.
All right, you have a minute and a half to wrap up your thoughts on Rose, Finn, Phasma, that whole subplot.
I think DJ is going to continue to be a character. I don't think JJ is going to pass up that option. I think Rose is also going to take a big play, and I think Finn's going to take a big play. But I think part of the problem is Rose's character. Love the actor. Love her. She's great. She did a great job. But I think Rose's character was really wasted in this movie. And I don't think JJ is going to be able to bring her back. I think she's going to end up being kind of this weird side character. I'm trying to think of an equivalent, but there really isn't in the Star Wars
unless they
film.
think of something brilliant for her to do, especially since this is supposed to wrap up everything. What can she do that would be significant?
As far as the movie goes, Broom Kid at the end has more significance to the story than Rose does, which is terrible because they wasted
Broom Kid, and he probably won't be mentioned at all.
I know, Broom Kid, no.
And then we'll all look back at the end of that, and be like, well, that was bullshit.
Yeah. Okay. And we're 30 seconds away. It's close enough.
All right, moving on. What's next?
So this is Kylo Ren versus Hux. That scene after he kills Snoke, that tension between General Hux, like him just sitting there, like, I swear to God, if I had any amount of force powers, I would have slapped you silly. I think that was a really good scene, and I hope they keep Hux around because I think Hux is not only as the actor but as a character is very powerful.
I love everything like Hux, especially like some people will even complain about the beginning, but I thought the beginning was hilarious with that little back and forth with Poe.
I thought that was great because
you and your friends are doomed.
because that's Hux's character played perfectly, which is him taking himself too seriously, and Poe Dameron being the new Han Solo. Like, it was perfect.
Yeah, I think that we finally decided that, because there were some arguments about how to pronounce his name. I think it is Domhnall Gleeson. There was, people, I always would say Domhnall Gleeson, but I think it's Domhnall Gleeson. Domhnall Gleeson. I think the H is silent or something. Yeah, the actor who plays Hux. Yeah. Domhnall Gleeson. He was Bill in the Harry Potter movies.
Yes.
And he didn't show up to the last couple Harry Potter movies, but he's Ron's older brother.
Yes.
Anyways, he's great.
So that was good. Yeah, so that was all great. And then we get to the next big part, which is the Battle of Crait.
Crait.
Thank you.
Craft.
Fuck.
Craft cheese.
Right. I just lexic the letters there. So we had DJ's reveal of the plan, the bombing of the emergency transports, Holdo's light speed through the supremacy, and Phasma's death.
That was a cool moment.
Dude, I think DJ's reveal of the plan was really just it ended up being an elaborate excuse for why they started bombing the ships. I don't think we need to talk anymore about that. Do you have anything to say about his character. I mean,
yeah. Again, you get rid of that whole subplot, and all you need to be like, hey, they're trying to escape.
Yep.
Shoot them. Like you don't need that betrayal.
What's that little moving black dot over there?
Okay.
Good work, Corporal. Like, bomb that. Yeah.
There are no life forms in it.
Right? Yeah. Don't shoot. There's no life forms. Like, when have they ever done that? Sorry. That was...
Well, we've seen in other Star Wars movies that they know right away when an escape pod is jettisoned from a ship. So why wouldn't they know that those escape pods are you know what I mean? Like,
I think their excuse was they were too far out.
Oh,
was because they were out of the cannon range. I don't know.
Yeah, they kept saying like the distance. They kept making up things about the distance, which were never really part of anything except for Star Wars X-Wing game.
Yes, which is very important. Distance is important.
But hey, anyways, yeah. Well, let's move past that too.
The bombing of the emergency transports, them losing guy after guy after guy, which was pretty brutal. I don't think there needs to be much said about there. Let's talk about the thing that everybody loved and hated.
Finally, when you get to Crait, that's when the movie really picks up and the like super freaking awesome Star Wars because you got like rebels like as helpless as they've ever been.
They could not have been more
They've got junk ships that don't do anything.
No guns.
Huge guerrilla AT-ATs after them. AT-AS. What are the like? Do you know what they're called?
The AT-STs?
Yeah, they're
the AT. I had it on my other sheet. I don't have it in front of me.
AT Guerrillas.
Yes. Yeah, the AT Guerrillas, which were amazing. ATM-6s.
ATM-6s.
So that was incredible. But I want to talk about Holdo's Lightspeed. Holdo's Lightspeed through the Supremacy. Holy crap.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That was incredible. And then a lot of people like came up with a lot of big excuses and stuff like that with like, why don't they just do that all the time? Why isn't that just a thing they do all the time? There's a couple reasons. It's the equivalent, I would argue that is the equivalent of a short-range ballistic missile.
Oh, and you also couldn't do that automatically. Someone has to die to do that. You have to manually get in position and manually go.
Yes, and so if you're looking at today, that's the equivalent of a short-range ballistic missile. Not a huge effect, but extremely devastating. A lot of collateral damage, and really, really expensive. Really expensive. Even the New Order can't pay for that. That's insane. That's the equivalent of losing like thousands of little Death Stars every time you decide to do that. That's nuts. You wouldn't pay for that. And so it's good as a last ditch effort, and it proves that this is truly a desperate moment for them. Now, there's a little bit that I watched online about like how the mechanics of that work, but I think the way it was portrayed and the way that story went together was fantastic. My second point was it didn't light speed through the Supremacy. It was getting up to light speed. Because when it hits light speed, we've already talked about this, you've already decided you have a clear path, and you basically blink there. You're the equivalent of a blink. Now, when they get to light speed, they have that last one where, and it shows it in all of them, where they kind of blink out for a second, but you don't see that. You literally just see the Supremacy go full speed, trying to get the light speed, or the Raddus full speed into the Supremacy. I think that shot was perfect. I don't think they could have done it any better.
Right. Now, we do address comments at the end, but I feel compelled to answer this one right now.
You got there?
Trailer Park Samurai says, why didn't they just lightspeed a ship into the Death Star, you know, like in the original Star Wars? And I have a fantastic answer for that. The Death Star was way too shielded for that to have worked on the Death Star.
Yes.
Like, the whole point of the Death Star was that it had this huge shield generator that was impenetrable. Like, in The Last Jedi, it makes sense for them to go through the Star Destroyers, but the Death Star, that wouldn't have happened. In fact, they couldn't even shoot giant ballistic missiles at the Death Star. That's why they had to just send their smallest ships into the trench run to get that one flaw in the Death Star. That's the only way that it could have gone down.
Even without the shield generator, and I won't go to the physics of it, when you send something to light speed, the only thing that will stop it is the size of a planet. It wouldn't have done anything. It would, the mass of the Death Star as a whole and all other Death Star versions, it's way too big, despite the weight and the size of the Raddus. Getting up to light speed and then hitting something the size of a planet would have just went boop.
Assuming that the Death Star didn't have shielding, if she had done that to a Death Star, you maybe would have taken out a small chunk of it. But yeah, that's way too massive to have gone through. Even if it did go all the way through, you've just made a hole in the Death Star. The only way to destroy a Death Star is to cause a chain reaction, which will then blow up the entire ship.
Hashtag ventilators.
Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. We've done that. Now we move to the final scene. They make it down to the planet. It is the abandoned mine holdup. This is the final really known rebel stronghold that's been abandoned for years.
Red, cool stuff underneath the salt.
Yes.
Crystal foxes.
Beautiful. Could have done without the crystal foxes. I know what they were trying to do, and they admitted to it, and it was cute. They were trying to do the Porg, but with the foxes.
Yeah, and then they end up not making any toys for it.
Nope. And what I loved about that shot was so beautiful. The little salt thing, which was great. The commander,
it's salt.
The veteran rebel commander, knowing this is probably going to be his last fight and just stepping up from the trenches to take a look. Like, everything about that shot was just beautiful. It was just visually amazing. That moves into there wasn't really a lot of back and forth before we saw all of the new equipment, which are the ski speeders, the ATM-6s, and the TIE fighters. That battle. Did you want to talk about Luke and Leia's discussion before I nerd out on all the equipment, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just quickly, like, when Luke comes in, it's like, when you're watching the movie for the first time and you don't know that he's a projection, you're like, whoa, did he do the quick 2-day Jedi workout? Because he looks thinner, he looks younger.
He dyed his beard.
Yeah, he dyed his beard. He just you could tell they got him when he was at his thinnest for that moment. And and he's his eyes look more blue or something.
Yep.
And he's talking to Leia, and it's and I'm super nerding out and going because they're playing the Luke and Leia brother sister theme from the Return of the Jedi. And what's fun for me is that's one of my favorite songs in Star Wars, and they barely used it it was written for Return of the Jedi. And you guys might not know this, but the way that movie scoring used to work back in the 70s and 80s is John Williams would write all these themes. Here's Yoda's theme, here's Luke's theme, Leia's theme, Luke and Leia's theme, Han and Leia's theme, Leia's theme. He would write all these themes, and that's why the Star Wars albums would be 2 vinyls of more music that would ever fit in the movie. And then when he scores the movie, he has to take all the themes he's written and kind of fit them in little pieces in the movie. So that theme was never fully used. It was barely used in Return of the Jedi. They actually used more of that theme in The Last Jedi than they did for Return of the Jedi. And it was that moment. It was and then it's Luke and Leia finally meeting up again, And so I was super nerding out about that. And it was an emotional scene. They hadn't seen each other in a long while. And then he hands her the Han dice.
What's he say? I forget. What does Luke say to Leia in that moment?
Oh, he's none of us ever truly die.
Yeah, that I know that was written entirely just for Carrie.
Yeah.
There was no way that line was in there before the end of that movie.
Or maybe it's just a huge coincidence because he's going to die. He knows he's about to die.
Yeah, maybe it was, but I think...
I know there's so much where it feels did they know? Did they know? Did they do that after? We'll never know.
But I thought that was beautiful. I thought whether they did it before or after, I think that whole scene was really tied together. Not only where the series needs to go, where the Star Wars, just the Star Wars empire needs to go at this point. I think it showed that time moves on. Yeah. They've spent a lot of time here together.
A lot of people don't understand the Han dice. If you watch A New Hope, the original Star Wars movie, those dice are hanging above the cockpit at the top. They are there. They're actually there in every Star Wars movie, but as far as I know, it's really A New Hope is where you can see the clearest shots of them, but it's there in every shot of the Falcon. The dice are there, and I think we're going to see in the Han Solo movie him actually put those in there for the first time.
Which is a different discussion.
Yeah, so that next week.
Yeah, next week.
Next week we've got so much news to talk about Han Solo, but we'll save that for next week.
Oh my god. Okay, so can I nerd out on the equipment before we hit Luke's final battle and then take questions?
Yeah.
Okay. The equipment, the ski speeders, the ATM-6s, and the TIE fighters were amazing. That whole scene, that fight scene was incredible. I think Finn's sacrifice to go jump into the ram was stupid. I think they just wrote Finn poorly in this movie. But that piece of technology, the little mini Death Star cannon, holy crap! The writers on that created an entire new world of equipment that we hadn't seen in was rugged, like it should have been for the time period. When they did all the prequels and stuff, they made it all pretty and like all the ships were like sleek and stylish. But you saw none of that as the timeline went forward. It made no sense to me that we see these rusted down kind of bulky ski speeders designed for a single purpose is how you would have equipment in the Star Wars universe. Equipment would be very localized. Like, this is for ground fighting. This is for the salt flats. And I think as far as a mechanics point, they did a great job with it. So that's me. All right. I will let you take off if you don't have anything to say about that, about Luke, final fight with Kylo.
Well, what I think is really interesting is there's an argument made like, well, if he's just going to die because the astral projection takes too much out of him, then why didn't he show up there in person? And there's a easy explanation for that. If Luke had shown up in person, and remember, Luke, as far at this point, until Kylo and Rey unlock their true potential, maybe Luke, as far as we know, is the most powerful Force user in the galaxy.
Yes,
if
currently.
he had shown up in person, yeah, he would have kicked a lot of ass. But all the lasers they were firing at him, I don't know if he could have deflected all of those, even as powerful as he is. By astral projecting himself in his, showing himself in his prime form and having all those lasers go through and being cocky, and then, no one's able to kill him, and then, showing that the lightsaber goes through him, and then disappearing and proving that he didn't even need to be there, that was Luke showing how overpowered he was.
Yes.
The astral projection itself is showing how overpowered Luke was. Trust me, by not showing up in person and doing all of that, that is showing how overpowered Luke was. I don't think he could have done anything else to show how overpowered he was. And
yes.
Now that he is a Force ghost, he's going to be even more powerful. So I hope we see that in the next movie. But the whole thing, Kylo getting mad, fighting him, and then getting frustrated, everything, beautiful in my opinion. That was as good as that ever could have been, in my opinion.
I literally have nothing to add to that scene. This is where Rian Johnson really shines. These last final scenes, starting with the destruction of the Supremacy, I was like, holy crap! It went action until the end, and by the end, I was like, holy crap! I'm exhausted. This is so emotional. It was beautiful. I enjoyed every minute of that. I think, then we move up to the escape on the Falcon. And I think that was it was a cute send-off. It varies differently between Battlefront 2's escape from that same map. It shows additional, it doesn't just show the 12 guys who made it out of the thing with General Ghana and all that stuff. It shows a bunch of rebel ships still leaving. I think that's probably more accurate. I don't know because it showed a line of true rebel soldiers in the trenches, but then only them leaving.
But considering the flack that Battlefront got, I don't know how true to that they're also going to be. I like the idea that you can fit all those surviving rebels on the Millennium Falcon.
Because they had the huge whatever it is.
Yeah, all of the
in the Force Awakens, I forget the name of the monster, but they had all the monsters in his ship, right?
Oh no, that was on the bigger ship. No.
Was it?
But smuggling. They have all the smuggling down below is where you smuggle all the stuff,
so
the smuggling hideaway things. Like in A New Hope, they show they're all hiding while the stormtroopers come. They're like, oh, I've only used these for smuggling.
Yep.
Never thought I'd be smuggling myself. Whatever the line is in A New Hope.
Yep.
So there's that. Yeah, there's tons of room. People can be down there, but I think they were all up there. I think there's maybe 20 people left. But that's the spark that's gonna be the fire to light the whatever he said.
And then it shows the books are on the Falcon, which is adorable too. That they saved that they saved the text, and then it cuts to the neat Force child scene, which I thought was great, but probably not going to go anywhere. I don't know if you have anything to say on that. I think that's. I think it's probably we're going to have to see.
All right, and that's our review then, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because everything that we were going to say for the end, like our final thoughts about the movie, I feel like we just kind of sprinkled in the entire thing. I will say one final thought. A lot of people are unhappy with this. Critics love it. The critic, like 9 out of 10 critics love this movie. Fans, I would say that maybe 3 out of 10 fans have a little bit of an issue with it.
Yes.
And again, like I've said, I have a few issues. The Finn and Rose stuff I didn't like. But as a movie, as a whole movie, I still stand by my original review score of 8.5 out of 10. I think this is a great movie. And you were like, well, if you like it too much, how can I never give anything a 10 out of 10. If I give a movie a 10 out of 10, it's like The Godfather, so
Rogue One,
Rogue One 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
At list.
9 out of 10.
Yeah.
For sure.
And on my list of my Star Wars movies, I put Rogue One ahead of this one.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
I think it's like, I was like Empire, Jedi, Rogue One, you know?
Yes.
Return, I have to say Return of the Jedi because there's The Last Jedi too.
Brr.
Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then number 3, Rogue One. It's the best Star Wars movie in 30 years. So
yes, it
there
was.
you go.
It was the best war movie in 30 years.
Oh, geez,
Ugh,
yeah.
So good. Okay, so question time. We'll take about 10 or 15 minutes of your questions. I'm going to go ahead and scroll to the top and address any of the good ones that people have already posted. If you have a good one now, go ahead and toss it in. It needs to be Star Wars related.
I see an old friend is in the chat, Matt Provincial. He played Wario, of course, in Stupid Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
He's an old veteran of this channel. Hi, Matt.
Yes.
How you doing? I never thought I'd see you come in on one of these streams, but it's good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Let us know if you have a question about Star Wars. I don't know if there's anything I could answer that you don't know already. I don't know, but we'll see. But thank you so much for joining us. I do want to answer one question I see right now. And that is Darth Spider4 says, tell me, do you know who Qui-Gon's master is? And unless I'm very much mistaken, he was trained by Count Dooku, because he's like, don't forget that Qui-Gon was my Padawan before you.
Yeah, I think he just says it.
Yeah. I think some of the fans are going to be like, oh, you guys are hosting a Star Wars? Well, let me, I gotta, Star Wars trivia time. I'm going to do this
really thing. Hey Siri. Like, I got it. I'm not an all-knowing God. I just have opinions.
And thank you for, thank everyone for joining us, but trust me, we do know our stuff about Star Wars. At least I like to think we do.
You know significantly more than me. I always just nerd out on the equipment.
Yeah.
Like, I know nothing about the plot. I'm like, who's that guy who was Darth Vader? And they're like, but I can tell you what his limbs were made out of and how they connected to his body, because that's the stuff I like. So, all right, let's find some good questions here. This is an easy one. Hey, Rich, who's your favorite Star Wars character?
I know that I've been a little inconsistent about this, but I think every time...
Who's your favorite right now?
I mean, I will always and forever say Dash Rendar. He's Legends. He's not in any of the movies, and he probably never will be, but Dash Rendar, everyone. He is still the coolest smuggler in the galaxy.
Dude, I roll him on my Jump Master. So good. With Star Wars X-Wing, by the way. That was for Star Wars X-Wing. This is an interesting one. Let's just do a quick comment on the shirtless scene.
Oh, somebody mentioned that. I think they were talking about that when we were talking about the relationship. Yeah. It's like, because well, if they weren't intended to be together, why was that? I think the shirtless scene was just for goofs and gaffs.
Don't you think the shirtless scene was just to show that was to kind of hint that the connection between them was not being controlled by Rey and Kylo? That it was truly, because if Kylo's making that connection to Rey, then he's not gonna do it while he's on the toilet. Like, so that's Snoke's kind of like, hey, I can do this whenever I want.
I didn't think of that, but you're absolutely right. That is just a tiny little additional detail to let the audience know that neither of them are intending to do this.
No,
it's going to come at the most inconvenient times.
Yes.
Because it just happened. And also people are like, well, if Snoke is truly dead, then how come they are still connected at the end? I think like he turned the switch on and now it's permanently on. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if he's dead, they are now permanently connected. But I do think Snoke is the one that set that up. But again, they have no control over when it happens, so it's just going to happen even if one of them's totally naked.
Yep.
So shirtless Kylo, she's probably going to see a lot more than just shirtless Kylo.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Absolutely.
It was also there just to show how much Adam Driver has been like working out and everything too,
Yes.
Gotta see them pecs.
Oh yeah. Hey, he's been working on them. He worked hard. He deserves it.
But is he gonna also see her in a similar situation? Probably, but not that we'll ever see that in a Star Wars movie.
Right. Maybe. Let's scroll down.
We already talked about. People were just generally interested in what we had to say this time.
Yeah,
they weren't asking too many questions.
Well, there's some bunch at the bottom here, but I'm gonna try to read through. Qui-Gon's Master. Episode 9. Do you think it'll? Well, they talked about this. He asked. Trailer Park Samurai asked, "Will it end on a cliffhanger, or do you think it'll be the end of the story?" He said he was going to wrap it up. JJ said he was going to wrap up all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
It's been confirmed that I think that what Lucasfilm wants to do now, because they have tons, they're like, we need to do our Boba Fett spinoff, our Yoda, I said Yoda twice, Yoda, Boba Fett. They're even talking about doing a gangster film with Jabba the Hutt.
Hell yeah.
The Obi-Wan spinoff. They want to do all these spinoffs, and hopefully most of them are as good or better than Rogue One.
But hopefully none of them are as bad as the Han Solo.
A lot is riding on this Han Solo. Again, guys, next week. Han Solo. We have a lot
crap.
because we've been saving a lot of the news,
Yes.
but tons of stuff every day is coming out about Han Solo.
They're trying to fix the perception of it.
And we just I was here the other day when it was like more reshoots.
Yep.
Okay, got to save for next week.
I guarantee you, the amount of film they've shot in reshoots will have surpassed the original shoots.
Oh, absolutely.
I guarantee
they didn't even finish the original shoots.
I guarantee you the number of takes on the reshoots, total film time used, will surpass the original.
Absolutely.
Yep,
but
there's no way.
We got to save all that for next week.
Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. All right, let's get down here.
Next week is Han Solo week.
Yes, hey-o. Another question, great one by Trailer Park Samurai. Think Anakin will return in some way?
Oh man, I'm gonna say this for forever, but so many things could have been in that movie instead of the Finn and Rose thing. I'm glad we got Force Ghosts. We were talking about whether there was going to be Force Ghosts in it at all before the movie came out, and I'm so glad that at least Yoda showed up. But I really, maybe, especially since Kylo didn't go to the good side, I would really like Anakin, and Hayden Christensen's got to come back, and he's got to be like, I'm sorry, it's taken me so long to connect with you. But maybe, here's what I think. I think the reason why Anakin Force Ghost hasn't shown himself to Kylo yet is because Kylo is so, crazy and, off the kilter that, he, the Force Ghost just can't connect with him. But maybe Kylo will finally have a moment of zen. Anakin will show up and be like, "Hey, I was Darth Vader, but guess what? I got over myself, and so should you." And then,
I think if anything, if there's any Force Ghost connection, it's gonna be Snoke rocketing into his mind in an inopportune time, and it's gonna be some earth-shattering thing for him.
Maybe. But it's that's the only way that I could see Anakin coming back is to Kylo directly, because now that Luke's dead, he doesn't really need Anakin's guidance, and there's no real reason. I mean, they didn't bring Obi-Wan back
and it's
either,
Luke's turn. It's Luke's turn.
It's Luke's turn to be the old man ghost.
Yes.
The old man ghost.
This one is actually something I want to talk to, and I think it will be our final question, unless somebody can pitch one that's really good. And I'm gonna answer Matt's because that's funny after this. So for The Last Jedi having too many jokes, that was a complaint. And due to my line of work, which I'm not going to talk about, but if you've ever dealt in a stressful situation, any type of stressful situation, most people deal with it in humor. And I think the amount of jokes and the amount of times they brought up stuff and the amount of cuts they had and kind of lifting themes and stuff like that were kind of light was perfect. I think it was exactly perfect to what you would be going through when you're facing down a barrel of death. You don't most people who are heroes and important and end up making the hard decisions and doing the heroic acts are telling jokes the entire way, because otherwise they would be crushed. You would have no reason to live. You would have no spirit left when you're facing down the supremacy and Snoke and Kylo and just overwhelming odds. So I think The Last Jedi did it perfectly.
Yeah, I would say that Rogue One, I think, implemented jokes in tough situations a little bit better than The Last Jedi did. I don't think that the jokes were out of place in The Last Jedi. I think entire scenes were out of place with Finn and Rose, and therefore the jokes in those scenes may have been out of place just because the whole scene was out of place.
It just felt off.
But in Crait and Rey and Luke, and then Rey and Kylo, and anytime that there was some camaraderie or light jokes during tense moments, I think all of those moments were appropriate. Yes. So I guess overall, I would say The Last Jedi didn't have too many jokes for me.
No, it didn't pull me out of the movie, which I thought was good. Last one.
Okay,
I'm calling
Matt Provincial.
Yes.
If you could, how would you kill Jar Jar Binks? Well, Matt, I'm so glad you asked, because I've had a lot of time to think about this. So, again, quick...
Flip through which one do I want to go with today?
So, really quick to recap, in case you guys didn't know, the original purpose of Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be the foil, and he was supposed to be the fool. And in great Shakespearean quality, in the way that it goes is he pretends to be stupid, but again, really, if you really pay attention to episode 1, you can kind of see Jar Jar doing a lot of things on purpose. The original intent of Jar Jar was to be the bad guy, but because so many people hated him in episode 1, they kind of really toned down his character in 2 and 3, and ultimately they didn't go in the direction that Lucas originally wanted to go in, because it was ultimately well, I guess if Jar Jar's bad, people might find that really silly at this point.
He should have just hammered him
but
out.
Everything that he does in episode 1 is on purpose, and you can tell if you're looking for it, you can tell he's doing that to throw them off. He gets in Qui-Gon's way so that he needs to be in life debt to Qui-Gon. Every single thing he does is on purpose. Anyways, so here's what happened. Because they didn't go down that way, they obviously something needs to, because Jar Jar is in episode 3 and then nothing else afterwards. I think I can't possibly keep up with every comic book. I have read a lot of Star Wars comic books in the new canon, and I've read almost everything in the old Legends because, hey, I was in high school and had time. But I don't know what the new canon is for how Jar Jar dies or is gotten rid of or anything. But here's what I think they should do. If they're going, because we're going to have Star Wars movies for forever now, thanks to Disney. I think eventually we are going to get a Star Wars movie. Maybe it's even the Obi-Wan movie that takes place right after episode 3. Because Rebels takes place after episode 3, but it's pretty close to episode 4. It's like right before episode 4. We're going to eventually get a movie that takes place right after episode 3. And I don't want it to all be about Jar Jar. I think there should just be a few scenes maybe that kind of shows like where Jar Jar is. And maybe he just lives a long, happy life in
the Gungan Kingdom.
But if they are going to kill him off, I think it would be really cool if Jar Jar finally tried to sacrifice himself. Maybe he tries to sacrifice himself to save Obi-Wan somehow. And then accidentally gets like shut out of an airlock and he freezes and breaks apart in space, you know? But I definitely think that they should show how Jar Jar dies or, lives as an old Gungan. Got to do it in a movie though. I don't want to. It's like, oh, did you hear about it in comic number blah blah blah? Do they get? No. Please put it in the movie. I need to see Jar Jar die. We all need to see Jar Jar die. Do
you know how I want to see him die?
How?
I want to see him go the way of Luke when he first sees a lightsaber around the porks. I want him to look at one and just.
Oh, Misa found a lightsaber. Boom.
And then just done. Awesome.
Matt Provincial says, ouch time.
Well, everyone.
Thanks for that, Matt.
Yes. Matt, thank you as well. Thanks, everybody, for stopping in and watching this hour of Star Wars Talk.
Star Wars Hour.
Oh, Star Wars
Some
Hour.
people call it Star Wars Talk. We were originally going to call it Star Wars Talk.
Yeah, this is
Star Wars Hour.
I like Star Wars Hour. It was good seeing everybody and great on-topic discussion. We were reading it the whole time. Really helped direct what we're doing. We just appreciate you guys giving us a watch.
Yeah, this episode especially, I was like, oh, wait, I want to address that. Yep. All right. Yeah, thank you for joining Star Wars Hour every Wednesday here on the Rich Alvarez channel.
Yes.
And I said Rich Alvarez channel. Rich Alvarez channel. Remember, I'm Rich Alvarez. This my boy D-Rock.
What up? And I got to pitch us now because we're on YouTube.
Okay.
So, sorry, we're on YouTube. We're on YouTube, The Complaint Department Games. You can find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Complaint Department Games for a quick link there. We've just started uploading videos. We do a lot of stuff. We do a Jackbox Party few hours, usually on Sunday. That's run by G-Dub. We have DeKalen who jumps on Fridays. I run the show on Mondays. During the week, Wednesdays, we have another little bit of a Jackbox time, depending on how everything's going. And we will be having the lovely Faith join us. We'll have a new streamer edition coming up here relatively soon. So we're doing it all the time. Go ahead and give us a watch.
Awesome. And everything that I do, you can basically find here. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Bye.
Bye, everybody.